I'll walk this nigga down, Ant.
Damn, he said clear out. I got it.
Hey! He called game!
Oh,
he called game!
God. So I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't really know how to open this video other than by saying this series is just gonna be insane. And this was something that we kind of knew coming in. The high octane, high production offense of the Denver Nuggets versus the insane defense and switchability of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Two teams that were competing for the 1 seed basically the entire year along with OKC. And we get to see them face off in the second round instead of the conference finals. So I feel like that is just a treat for us fans on its own. But game 1, we finally got the first taste of what we've been looking forward to, and it didn't disappoint. The game started out with a quick Minnesota run, mainly led by Anthony Edwards, but the entire Timberwolves team was pretty aggressive to start. They just weren't hitting their shots. Anthony Edwards had 14 points in the first quarter, and he really couldn't be stopped the entire night, no matter who the Denver Nuggets put on him. They don't really have a dedicated defender for him on this roster. Usually it would be KCP to handle the point guard or the shooting guard, but Anthony Edwards is just too big for him, so KCP was not really guarding him that much in this game in particular, and so his start gave them an early lead, even though he was really the only one that was actually doing anything. The reason that they could do that is because the Denver Nuggets offense couldn't really get anything going in the half court, especially to start the game. They only really started making a run once they started getting stops and once they started getting out in transition, in which they put a crazy run together. I believe it was a 13-0 run, which is exactly what you would expect out of them. And so that wasn't really that surprising. One thing that I was definitely looking forward to, and I wanted to see how he was going to handle it, especially after the first round, Jamal Murray didn't really seem all that comfortable at some points in the game. And you can definitely attribute some of that to the just length that the Timberwolves have, especially on defense. Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker were really good in this game, but also Jamal Murray had some looks in the first half. He just couldn't hit them. Then in the third quarter, in true Jamal Murray fashion, his first field goal, which he was, I believe, 0 for 5 or 0 for 6 at this point, was a step back fadeaway 3 at the end of the shot clock over Anthony Edwards. And then his second shot was a crazy reverse layup that is reminiscent of something that he did in the bubble. And so those were his first 2 shots that kind of got him going in the second half. So they tried to keep him out of the game as long as possible, and I think that's about as good as it gets in terms of trying to keep him out of the game. But still, they did a really good job of making sure that he couldn't really get really going like we know that Jamal Murray can, where he's outplaying everybody on the floor and taking over the entire game on his own. And speaking of the Timberwolves defense, they were absolutely swarming this entire game, and this was something that everybody really wanted to see, this crazy team with a bunch of switchable defenders against a team that runs a lot of really complex actions, off-ball movement, a lot of just read and reacts, like a lot of plays that really nobody else in the NBA can guard because they don't have the personnel that this Timberwolves team has. And their defense really did show up tonight. The Denver Nuggets were held under 100 points for just the 3rd time in their last 2 playoff runs. The other 2 times being game 2 against the Phoenix Suns last season and game 5 against the Miami Heat, the title clinching game. And so the Minnesota defense was absolutely fantastic in game 1. There was a play in particular that I'm thinking of. Michael Porter Jr. had Rudy Gobert on a switch, and he couldn't really do anything. And this was kind of a theme, especially in the Suns series, where he was able to switch out on perimeter players. Like, we know that Michael Porter Jr. isn't really like a crazy shifty player, but the fact that he is even able to switch out on perimeter players like that and be shut down is pretty telling about what this team actually can do, and also what Rudy Gobert can actually do, and just the amount of people that have been wrong about him over the years. Because if you remember back when he was in Utah, there was a lot of chatter about him winning his 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards because people felt like he couldn't really be a serviceable defender when he was out on the perimeter. There was the 2021 series where Terrence Mann was just cooking him over and over again in the closeout game, and a bunch of other examples that I'm not even even gonna name right now because there were plenty of them. But the thing that people didn't really realize back then, including myself, was that the defense of Utah and the defense that they have put around Rudy Gobert was so bad that he had to cover up for so much. It actually made him look like a worse defender than what he actually is. And so now in Minnesota, when you give him a team full of incredible defenders, switchable defenders 1 through 5, he looks like a guy that is deserving of winning his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award, which with Wemby coming up, this is probably the last chance that anybody will have of winning that award other than him. But I digress. There's another play in particular that I'm thinking about. It was late in the game. Rudy Gobert was the dropper in the famous Nikola Jokic short roll off the pick and roll. And literally within a split second, we see this a lot where if the lob isn't there, then he'll go for the floater. He sees Rudy Gobert kind of stunting towards him. And so he realizes that he can't really go for the floater in this situation, but Rudy Gobert is really just baiting him into throwing the lob. And because he is able to, because he has so much length, and because he's able to just basically read everything that he was about to do, Jokic throws the lob and Rudy Gobert is able to break it up. He shut off the 2 main outcomes that 95% of the time we see on this play, either a Jokic floater or a Jokic lob to Aaron Gordon, and he shut it down by himself. That's just incredible, bro. But in terms of how they won this game, that brings us back to the offense and back to, more specifically, Anthony Edwards, who had his playoff career high of 43 points. And as I said before, it didn't really look like there was anything that the Nuggets could do. It was literally just he would make the shot or he would miss it. Like, there wasn't really any difference in the defense that they were playing on him. It was literally just he was that unguardable throughout the night. They don't really have a specific defender for him. Like I said at the start of the video, like, he was really going at everybody. They tried to put Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in as many pick and rolls as humanly possible because, as we all know, Nikola Jokic is not the best pick and roll defender. Jamal Murray, not the best defender just in general. And so there were a lot of plays, especially in the second half, the third quarter, where they were just running actions and they couldn't really stop it. Aaron Gordon was having to drop a lot. And of course, as I said, Anthony Edwards just, he just did not care who was in front of him. There was a play where Aaron Gordon was switched onto him, and Aaron Gordon is a really capable defender, mobile defender, and it was like he wasn't even there. Left, right cross, shoot right over the top of him, and there was really nothing else that he could actually do. I'm sorry. I was looking through and I see this tweet in front of me. This dude just tweeted, everyone talking about Drake hiding another child for 11 years when Michael Jordan been hiding Anthony Edwards for 22. Man, my bad. I got very sidetracked there, but you had that. Cat was in foul trouble because he just committed some dumb fouls. There were 2 dumb fouls on Jokic, a 3-point foul on Jamal Murray. So those just aren't going away. You're just gonna have to deal with those. That's just the reality of having Karl Anthony Towns. Then you had the final nail in the coffin for the Nuggets, which was Naz Reid, the 6th man of the year, who didn't have a point until the third quarter, but was still able to really get going, especially in the fourth. He had 14 points in the fourth quarter, and it was mainly off of the actions that I was talking about before, where they would put Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in pick and roll. Aaron Gordon would have to drop or rotate over. That left Naz Reid open to where he can either take a wide open 3 or attack a closeout and get downhill, which he is more than capable of doing. We saw that a lot from him in the Phoenix Suns series and just throughout the year. And he was actually playing so well that they didn't even need to bring Cat back in for a big portion of the fourth quarter while he was in foul trouble. And so now you have a series in which the Timberwolves won a game on Denver's home floor. So the crazy home court advantage that the Denver Nuggets have doesn't seem to be as big of a factor in this series. Of course, we have only played one game. It is going to be interesting to see how they respond to game 2. That's another thing that I'm really excited to see in this series, and the reason why I was looking forward to it so much. The game-to-game adjustments that we're going to see from both teams, because these are 2 of the best teams in the league going up against each other. And so it's going to be really interesting also from that perspective. But game 1, definitely showed us a lot, but there's still a long way to go. And it's just gonna be really interesting to see what happens with these teams. Another team that I'm interested to see what happens to them, the Phoenix Suns. I recently made a video talking about their playoff exit and just the insane situation that they have put themselves into and the very drastic changes that they will have to make. So you can watch that right here. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, comment down below what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.